Yeah, welcome to ShareTrack. This is Raj here. This is an offbeat video for us today. This is a topic that we generally don't handle, but it's indirectly related to the stock market eventually. But this video is dedicated to most of the viewers of our channel who are of Indian origin, who had left India at one point of time or who still live in India. So here is what I think is happening with India. This is to commemorate the 75th Independence Day that India celebrated on the 15th of August. This video is slightly late, but I had to do my research before I brought this to you. So let's get started. Welcome back. Friends, India celebrated its 75th Independence Day on the 15th of August. Here are my thoughts about India at this point of time. During the last 75 years, India has undergone a lot of changes. It included 2 wars with Pakistan and 1 with China. In all events, India did not get support from the West and depended on the Soviet Union and later Russia for weapons assistance. India started off as a socialist democracy and modeled itself after the Soviet approach of having 5-year plans and a centrally planned economy. It was particularly brutal for India in its earlier days as the British had already plundered the wealth of the country and destroyed its cottage industry by converting India into a source of raw materials and a market for finished British goods. I recollect in my early childhood in the 70s, it used to take 15 years to get a scooter, 25 years to get a car, and 20 years to get a landline. It was because all the planning was centralized and there were just 2 car making companies. There was one government company for manufacturing televisions and for manufacturing landlines. And there was a couple of scooter manufacturing companies. And all of them had to get all the materials like steel and everything through the government. It was absolutely controlled economy. And that caused a lot of heartburn, and it led to the beginning of corruption because people would be willing to pay a little extra to get whatever they wanted to buy a little earlier. And also the government was creating job opportunities. The government felt that it had to create jobs, and it was its responsibility to provide job opportunity for all the citizens. So they did this by creating large banks, which were nationalized banks, and putting multiple branches and employing people to work in those banks. The government turned out to be the largest employer, and as a result, there was no service culture. The job security was guaranteed regardless of service levels. So that laid the foundation for a corrupt bureaucracy and public sector. Over the years, India changed its track and ditched the 5-year plans and centrally planned economy and opened up the economy, and that saw rapid development. Some of India's achievements were in the space sector with ISRO, and who can forget the Mars shot that India sent at a cost which was much less than a Hollywood movie. So India has done quite well in those sectors, and also in the education sector, India has produced lots of doctors who are working around the world, engineers and software developers, and that's a major contribution from India. The homegrown movie industry called Bollywood became the cultural ambassador in large parts of the world, especially in Asia and Africa. However, the new India now is full of confidence. The youngsters are full of confidence and they're venturing out. India had been an inward-looking society, and of late, India started looking outwards as well. So those are some of the changes, and the confidence and the satisfaction of the citizens comes from corruption reduction, which can be directly linked to India's extensive use of software to automate most government processes. For example, manual railway ticket booking meant touts could corner tickets on long-distance railway trains and sell them at a premium. This was solved by online booking. Now anyone can book a train ticket online from anywhere in the world. And that has taken away all the corruption that could have happened in the ticket booking area. Take the case of income tax. Earlier, tax officers could pick and choose cases to prosecute or delay refunds. Now the entire income tax regime is automated, and the computer picks cases for audit and forms it off to a different part of the country from where the taxpayer resides, thereby removing any chances of corruption and reducing it to the minimum. Refunds of income tax come automatically. Earlier, it had to be done manually by some tax officer, and so that removes another area of potential corruption. This has reduced the clout of tax officials and improved tax compliance at the same time, and therefore the government is collecting more tax now than it did before after automation. 100% of welfare given to the poor goes directly to their bank accounts and cuts the leakages. This was thanks to the Prime Minister's initiative of opening a bank account for every citizen in India. This follows introduction of national identity card for every Indian. Earlier, when welfare schemes were announced, the money used to go through various channels, and there was a tremendous leakage. And one of the ex-prime ministers was famous for saying that when he gives 1 rupee from Delhi, by the time it reaches the beneficiary in a village in India, the beneficiary just gets 5 paise. So a rupee is made out of 100 paise, so 95% leakage was happening. Now that's totally gone with direct payment of welfare to the account of the person who receives the welfare. The GST regime has replaced various state taxes and excise duties that used to be applied, and there was inter-border checkpoints to collect those taxes. Now, all of that has gone with the advent of GST. It has helped smoothen the interstate commerce and removed a lot of corruption along those checkpoints. And this has also led to a lot of infrastructure work being completed. These are integrating canals and waterways, flyovers, expressways. All of this is improving internal commerce. India has also issued a national identity card and a national payment network. This national payment network is similar to what you would have with MasterCard or Visa, and it's very efficient, and it's helping the country streamline its payment system and thereby reducing tax leakages that used to happen due to cash sales of services and goods. On the civic front, the government has started a program to ensure cleanliness, and cities are looking much cleaner than before. This included ad campaign and actual recruitment of people to clean the cities. As a result of all of this, the present government enjoys a pro-incumbency factor as against the anti-incumbency experience throughout the history of Indian politics. Today, India does not request aid but is able to provide support to smaller neighboring countries. However, all is not well with India at this point of time. India has to take a decision. After being non-aligned nation for most of its existence, India is now facing potential challenges to remaining neutral. Let us zoom out a bit and look at the overall scenario. Earlier, US used Pakistan as a client state while it was engaged in Afghanistan. Then when US withdrew from Afghanistan, it did not have much interest in that area. However, we had China coming up with the Belt and Road Initiative, under which it provided soft funding to a lot of developing nations in the Indo-Pacific and Africa. Of late, it is seen collecting by trying to convert its soft power into naval bases and thereby take control of the Indo-Pacific corridor to ensure safe passage of its ship and oil. From a Chinese perspective, it's absolutely clear that they have extended funds to these countries, and these countries owe China, and therefore they have to hand over the assets back to China, whether it's a port that China built in Sri Lanka or some other facility. So as a result of which, from a Chinese perspective, they are rightful in claiming what they want. But from the Indian perspective and from the perspective of the West, it creates a bit of concern, especially to countries like Australia and New Zealand and Japan, when China tries to collect on those soft loans that it had given to these countries under the Belt and Road initiatives. Djibouti already has a Chinese base. China has approached UAE, Namibia, Cambodia, Solomon Islands, and possibly Vanuatu with a proposal to host a base. And I'm just going to show a map here to give you an idea of where these bases are. I have a partial map out here for you. I'm going to show you those countries that I spoke about. So the UAE is out here, and we have Tanzania out here, and we also have Sri Lanka, which currently hosts a Chinese spy ship on the port that was built by China under the Belt and Road Initiative for Sri Lanka, which Sri Lanka is now not able to pay because Sri Lanka is almost bankrupt. So that's a consideration for both India and Sri Lanka at this point of time. And apart from that, we have another choke point here, which is the Straits of Malacca. And in the Straits of Malacca, around this area, China is scouting for potential bases in Malaysia, and also it's looking in Solomon Islands and Vanuatu. Both of these island nations are indebted to China. A base is not in place, but still Australia and New Zealand are concerned that China could put up a base out there. So that's again area of concern. And over and above that, you have this island of Mauritius out here. So Mauritius has got a separate island called Diego Garcia, which is currently a U.S. military base, but it was supposed to be returned back to Mauritius when the British left. But at this point of time, there is a good chance that Mauritius may get back the island, and Mauritius proposes to receive rent from whoever is occupying the island for the bases. Right now, it's US, but this has made both US as well as India and China uncomfortable, because if Mauritius gets back the base, and then it could dictate what could happen out there, and both China and India are vying to make sure that Mauritius does not go into the hands of either India or China, respectively. Also, there is a under ocean cable, which is an internet backbone that connects Africa to Asia, and it has got a lot of international data traffic going on out there. That's been a flashpoint between India and China recently, with India accusing China of trying to tamper with the undersea cables, and there was a lot of political scuffle in Mauritius with regard to this. So there's a whole lot of issues going on. This is just a brief view of the map. Meanwhile, US has turned inwards while Russia-Ukraine crisis is taking a lot of bandwidth. Therefore, the US and allies are looking at the Quad in Asia and Pacific as a potential counterbalance to China, and they're also looking for a Middle Eastern NATO. The only country right now that can counter China in the region is India. However, India has to make a decision sooner rather than later. Due to Russia-Ukraine crisis, Russia has grown closer to China. At this stage, it looks like a weakened Russia will be at best a junior partner to China. However, India depends heavily on Russia for weapons. This creates a risk for India. Keeping in mind the past close ties and cooperation with Russia, India resisted taking sides during the Ukraine conflict. India also bought Russian oil. However, as time goes by with the Ukraine crisis unresolved, Russia's ability to provide weapons to India is in doubt. And also the influence of China on Russia becomes a major risk. It's a common logic in India that depending on USA or West for weapons is unreliable, as they may stop supplying if India does not follow their direction. Like in this case, wanting India not to buy cheap oil from Russia. The Russians have helped set up manufacturing plants in India for armaments and weapons. India wants the same from West if it were to align with them. As the days go by, and as China continues to formalize arrangements along the Belt and Road countries by converting their loans into bases, India will have to decide. However, being a counterweight to China will come with a heavy cost. It would mean constant spending on military, and that would leave less for development efforts. However, China has demonstrated its desire to dominate the region, and India staying neutral is not going to make any difference. Let us see what India does and how that changes the future. So these are my thoughts about India. And those of our viewers who are living in India or who are of Indian origin and who visit India often, or even for that matter, people from the West who visit India and have a good understanding, please put your comments below and let us understand how the world views India and its choices and its situation. So with that said, I'd like to bring this video to an end. Thanks and have a great day. Bye for now.